Alright, welcome guys to another episode of our desktop building. So today we're going to be building another full computer system. This time it's going to be focusing around the mid-ranged but productivity based user. Okay, so over here, as you can see, over at the heart of the system, we have a Ryzen 5 5600X. This is for the main bulk of all the muscles. There's a 6-core 12-thread that will handle most tasks, not super well, but adequately well. We have a pairing this up, we have a Gigabyte AORUS B550M AORUS Elite. Very good for its job. Okay, RAM it's 16 gigs of 3200 MHz LPX by Corsair. Cooling the CPU is a Cooler Master Hyper 212 ARGB. Not too shabby. Okay, first system drive will be our XPG SX8200 Pro. This will handle the bulk of our movement and transaction and mostly main of the things. Okay, for bulk storage, you're gonna have a 1TB WD Blue. Okay, for powering up the system, we have a Seasonic Core GX 650 watts. Okay, this is a Gold that will handle all of this well. And last but not least, for the graphics will be used by a Gigabyte RTX 2060. Okay, so we're gonna have some fun building it together, and the format is gonna be a little bit different. So stay tuned. We're gonna have more fun and more joy out of this together. All right. If not, here we go.
Okay. Putting away the parts, and remember, first things first is put the motherboard on a safe place, and remember, don't put it on top of the bag. Alright, putting on the CPU, make sure you align it with the notch. Okay, now you put in RAM, taking out the RAM covers. Okay, making sure we're just going to make sure that we're putting the RAM in the correct slot, because putting it wrong will not put in the correct dual channel position. Alright, putting on the SSD. Since this motherboard has no integrated SSD cover, so we just put on the heatsink and everything. Alright, we're moving on to the CPU cooler now. So this is the Hyper 212. So I don't really like the Cooler Master's installation tool, but at least it's better than some of the other models. Remember to take the original mounting plate out of the motherboard first. Alright, so then remember to put in the AM4 compatible mounting bracket, because there is an Intel one and an AMD one, so you don't want to mix it up. Alright, after you install it, test fit everything, it works, then you put on the thermal paste. So I like to do a cross, so with little dots in between. Right, when you are screwing in, make sure you screw in crisscross in a zigzag patterns. Alright, you don't want to do it like clockwise and clockwise, if not you have issues with the mounting. Alright, don't screw everything tight first, just do it zigzag like what I shown you. Do it zigzag first and everything. After that, put in the fan, do a bit of cable management, put the fan 4-pin into the CPU 4-pin, that is very important. Alright, right now we're just gonna do a very quick system power test, just to make sure all the components are working. So all you need is just the motherboard 24-pin, the motherboard EPS, that's for the CPU. Alright, install the graphics card if you are using a graphics card, which in this case, because we're using a Ryzen CPU, so yes, we definitely need a graphics card. Alright, so yep, hooking everything up, and once everything works, the fan spins, the slide means it works. So let's see if it works. Shut it out, yeah, it works. Woo! Alright, so by the way, I use the motherboard manual to figure out where to use the screwdriver to short the power. Alright, this is at the front panel there. Anyway, dismantling it back, so time to put the motherboard into the case. So preparing the case, right, put all cables that is in the way, put it out of the way first. That includes the fan one. Okay, if your fan is in the way, just remove the fan first. Right now we are installing the appropriate standoff screws for the motherboard. Remember to remove all the screws that is not going to be compatible with your motherboard size, so you can prevent any risk of short circuiting. Alright, now we're screwing in. You can just screw whatever you want. Micro ATX has 9 screw holes, so just make sure you screw all 9 of them. Make sure it is not too tight, just tight enough. Alright, now we're installing the other fans. just making sure that if I put the fan outside the case, can the front panel fit? And yes, it can. So we're screwing it in. So don't be lazy. Screw four screws per fan. All right. After that, line up your height appropriately. So it doesn't really matter too much if you're just using air cooling. But if you're going to be fitting an AIO, so make sure that your fans are side by side so that you can actually align the radiator properly. Alright, now that it's hooked up, we are hooking on to the rest of the cables. So that includes your motherboard cable, your motherboard power, all the other things, and putting in the power supply as well. So now's a good time. Okay, remember to connect the power cables to the power supply first, then you put the power supply in. Otherwise, it might be a hassle, especially if your case has a built-in hard drive cage. Alright, now we are screwing the rest in, and the video is going faster now because no, haven't yet. Okay, now we are screwing in the hard drive. So it's a very important thing. Unlike solid state drives, hard drives have moving parts. So make sure you bolt them on properly and securely. Alright, you don't want the internal components to spoil just after a short time. Alright, so yep, this case doesn't have a hard drive mount. I don't see one actually, correct me if I'm wrong. So we actually screwed this directly into the hard drive with the appropriate shock mounts and everything. Alright, so hard drive has hard drive power and the SATA cable. So use the 90-degree SATA cable if necessary. So if you're using the straight one, right, very important, don't force it into a bend because you might affect the data lines of the SATA cable. So just remember that. Okay, after that, we are installing the rest of the cables. So the USB 3, that's the blue one. Okay, the front panel audio, the USB 2 if you have, and yes, the ever annoying front panel freaking headers. So this is very annoying. So just make sure that your positive, negative terminals are correct if it needs. So if I'm not wrong, the power switch and everything, they specific positive and negative. Alright, so we are moving on, and yes, now is the super annoying cable management. So the video is going faster now, if you can see, because it's just cable management. Alright, just making sure that everything is nice and tight, and you know, who doesn't like a neat setup, right? Yeah, just make sure the cables are tied properly, you know, kept out of the way. They are not in the way of other components and everything. And make sure you leave the power cable for the graphics card. Talking about that, we're putting in the graphics card now. That's the last step, putting in correctly, and we should be done. Closing up the panels, front, left, right, and bam!
Alright, so it looks like we have completed the build. So as you can see, it's actually very minimalistic with very little things. Let me open the front cover so you can actually see. Alright, so you can see it's very simple, but actually inside it's feature packed with 6 cores and great graphics and everything. Alright, so without the rest of me bragging on, so that actually comes to the end of our video, of our another episode of our desktop building guide. Like this video if you liked it, subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so yet. I'm Chester, that's all for today. See you guys.